This episode is brought to you by Borgen and Burks. Isn't it annoying when you still buy furniture and you still have to put it together? And isn't it annoying that even though you put it together, sometimes eventually things start falling apart or getting loose, and therefore the quality of it is not there? Well, at Borgen and Burks, your furniture already arrives assembled, even though they paid a premium to make sure that it's already assembled and shipped. You don't have to worry about it falling apart because it's already fortified and assembled for you. So visit borgen-bergs.com. In this episode, we're going to discuss that there are only two types of believers. Yes, not three, not four. There's only two types of believers. The ones that call themselves believers, but are not. And the other ones that are believers to the core. Not fanatics. No, 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 no. Don't get that twisted. True believers are not also fanatics. No. Let's make something clear. There are religious people that are fanatics. You probably already encountered some in your life. You probably even lived with one in your life. Or there's also friends of ours, or there's probably also relatives of ours that refuse to believe in any kind of religion, in any kind of enlightenment because they were raised by fanatics. True believers are not fanatics. And it's unfortunate if you encounter already a fanatic in your life. And what is the difference between a true believer and a fanatic? Isn't it the same thing? Isn't it a fanatic a true believer? No, no. It's been stigmatized as that. But some may say, yeah, but explain to me how. Because true believers are not scandalous, and fanatic people are scandalous. Yes, they scandalize about everything. They scandalize even about your struggles. They scandalize about your mishaps. And they also scandalize of stuff that is not even happening. Those are fanatics. They're scandalous. They are also judgmental. Yes, fanatics are judgmental because they feel that they are the ones that could judge anybody else because you're not at my level. That's how they feel. You're not at my level. So they are judgmental. You do not see life like I do. Those are judgmental. I give, I do charities, I contribute. Those are judgmental people that they have to go to the second attribute that makes a fanatic. A fanatic is also arrogant, boastful, condescending, disturbed. Yes. A fanatic is also disturbed because they're letting their emotions dictate their life. A fanatic lets their emotions rule their life. Not reason, not common sense, not wisdom. No. A fanatic is content by their senses, by their emotions rule their life. In other words, also a fanatic, it's a weak person because when you start talking to a fanatic and you start disagreeing with them, they start getting louder. They start getting disrespectful. They start also to the point of screaming and yelling at you. They lose control. A fanatic loses control. A fanatic cannot stay calm. A fanatic cannot control their emotions. A fanatic cannot be peaceful. A fanatic is only, quote unquote, calm and peaceful when you agree with them. But once you disagree with a fanatic, that peace, that quote unquote they call peace, is gone. And that's not a true believer. Let's get that straight. That is not a true believer. They call themselves the true believers. Those are the differences. There are only two types, the ones that call themselves true believers and the ones that are true believers. Those are not the believers that Jesus was talking about. He didn't want fanatics following him. Those were not the believers that he was talking about. Those are not the believers he wanted. No. If anything, he was always preaching against the fanatics. Yes, you remember? There's several examples where Jesus Christ was preaching always against these fanatics, these scribes, these Pharisees. Those were fanatics to the core, to the point that they were looking for any excuse to hurt him, to arrest him, to beat him, to the point that they ended up crucifying him. The fanatics, they didn't listen to patience, to wisdom. He was the patient one. But see what a fanatic does? We have to keep that straight and differentiate of a true believer. He didn't want fanatics following him. A true believer doesn't have to constantly say he's a believer. No. A true believer doesn't have to constantly say to others or to constantly hear himself say, I'm a true believer, because his life will speak for him. Yes. A true believer's life, a true believer's actions will speak for him. But what is a true believer then? What are the attributes of a true believer? What makes a true believer different than a fanatic? Than a person that calls himself a believer but doesn't do anything to back that up also? First, the first thing that a true believer has in his life is gratitude. Yes, that person is grateful. That person has gratitude. Why? Why the gratitude? It is essential to have that first in your heart, the gratitude. A true believer has a lot of gratitude because he's gratitude to the rescue that God did for us. He's grateful to God for the rescue he did for him or for her. Yes, he's grateful because he remembers where he came from. He doesn't forget from where he was saved from. He doesn't forget from where he comes from. What God has made of him as well. Okay, a true believer doesn't forget where he was rescued from. A true believer is also grateful for what God has made of him. Yes. A true believer's first attribute is gratitude. Because what has the Lord made from us? Yes, that's the first question that I'm going to ask you now. What has the Lord made of us? He made us worthy. That's where the gratitude comes from. Yes, he made us worthy because we were unworthy. He made us also a depository of his greatness. Think about that. We are worthy now, and he also made us depositories of his greatness. So now you have a part of God in your heart, something powerful, something not of this planet, something beyond our human understanding now lives in you. See where the gratitude comes from? Now there's something more and bigger that transcends everything now lives in you. See where that gratitude comes from? Because what society and families deemed unfixable, God has fixed. What society and families deem unsalvageable, the Lord has repaired and fixed. Yes, that's where the gratitude comes from. We don't forget. Maybe we have family members who thought we were not salvageable. Maybe we had friends who thought we were lost causes. There's no way this person can find any help and get better. There's no way this person be rescued. Yes, they deemed us, societies deemed us unrepairable, unsalvageable. But not only the Lord repaired, not only the Lord fixed, but he deposited in us his greatness, his wisdom. That's where the gratitude comes from. Also, a true believer, because of the gratitude that lives in his heart, is compassionate. Yes, the second attribute is compassion. But how many times is he or she compassionate? Once? Twice? Always. A true believer is always compassionate. Was the Lord compassionate only once? Did the Lord only show compassion twice? He showed it always. But what is being compassionate? It's not just giving money to a homeless person or a person in need. That's not being just compassionate. Compassionate is also not being judgmental. Yes, think about that. A compassionate person is not judgmental. Remember the mob of people that was going to stone the woman to death? And the Lord intervened? Why do you think the Lord told them, whoever is free of sin, throw the first stone? Why do you think he said that? Because everybody in different ways were also as sinners like her. In different ways, they also were sinning. And that woman was caught in adultery. And that's a grave sin. Adultery, it's all over the world. It's seen with bad eyes. It's a really horrible sin, right? But Jesus saw in all of them, you may not be committing adultery, but what you're doing is as bad as adultery. What could it be? What could it be? Think about it. Everybody has weaknesses. Everybody have their demons. Everybody in different ways have their struggles. I may not, maybe I don't commit adultery, but maybe on this side I'm fraudulent. Maybe that's my weakness, being a fraudulent person. Or maybe the other person is not fraudulent, but the other person likes to, in their mind, commit lechery, desire other women. But maybe that woman over there doesn't commit lechery in her mind or desire men or in her mind. But maybe that woman over there, through gossip and murmuring and lies, causes marriages to fall apart. See how different sins and weaknesses are as bad as hers? That's why he said that. Whoever's free of sin, then throw the first stone. You may not be an adulterer like her, but you are committing also, your sins are as bad as her. And even the one that could judge didn't judge her. Then and there, he had the authority. He had the capacity. But him, even the Lord being there, didn't judge her, but instead showed compassion. A true believer is compassionate. And he or she that is compassionate, in turn, is wise. Yes, that's the third attribute of a true believer, wisdom. Because he or she is listening to the person that needs compassion. He or she is patiently listening to the person that needs compassion, that needs help. And also, those good listening qualities that person has is also a good judge of character. How? But how? Because we don't forget where we came from, what we were in our past life. And some had the unfortunate events in their lives of living in the streets. And when you have unfortunate also events in your lives, in other words, being raised in a rough environment, in a bad environment, when you are raised also by life, in other words, when life drags you back and forth, you encounter different kinds of people out there. You encounter different types of souls out there in your life. So therefore, nobody's going to play you as a fool because you know also the bad ones. You can distinguish the ones that are trying to use you. The wisdom gets brighter in you. When you are a true believer, you have patience to listen. You don't force anything on anybody. Fanatics try to force their lives, their beliefs on you. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. The Lord didn't force anything on anybody. If anything, they told him to. Lord, what you're teaching is hard, and a lot of people are leaving, because your word is hard to follow. He told them, if you want to leave, you can leave too. Like, didn't force anybody. He showed the patience. Yes. That's also an attribute of a true believer. Patience. Do not force anything on anybody. This is the first part, guys. First part of this episode, because it needs more. I cannot summarize everything in this time right now. So we'll do a second part to this. Stay tuned to the next one.